This is Adam Watson.
And Robert Diaz.
You're listening to the Darkslinger Mafia podcast. Robert, what have you been up to?
In the time since the podcast, I guess in relating to nerdy stuff such as this, I saw Black Panther.
Yeah? What'd you think?
Yeah, I liked it. It felt like it had more of a story to it, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Because all these Marvel flicks, I don't call them good, I call them entertaining.
Right, they're popcorn movies.
Yeah, exactly. This one felt like it had a bit more substance to it.
Okay.
Felt a bit better. And then there's like this big hype point in the very beginning of the movie. It's tribes are together, people are chanting and dancing and yelling. Everyone's getting hyped up. That part's pretty cool.
Oh, okay. I want to see that. I haven't been to the theater since Logan was out.
Oh, that one was even better.
Oh, that was such a good movie. But I really like the previews of Black Panther, how two of the people that it shows are the guy who plays Bilbo in the Hobbit movies and then Gollum. And they're like both in that.
This time they're playing normal people.
It's like all these actors from Lord of the Rings are now in the Marvel movies.
Gollum, Andy Serkis?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good. He does that crazy guy pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
Is he a pretty big part in it?
No, not really. He's there for part of it. He's not like a whole character throughout.
Okay.
He plays a bigger part than he has in other movies.
Uh-huh.
Because he's barely seen in other movies.
Hmm.
And then...
Is he in the other Marvel movies?
He was in the second Avengers, I think.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, that's where he gets his arm cut off. I think that's the one where he gets his arm... Maybe that was before that he got his arm cut off. I don't know.
There's so many of them.
That one was Ultron. And Ultron comes for his... What the hell is it? The metal...
Vibranium?
Yeah, I wanted to say... First I wanted to say unobtainium, and then aluminium, and then like Wolverine metal. No, none of that. Vibranium. Everybody's got their own metal.
Right. Well, in Marvel Comics, Captain America's shield was always a mixture of adamantium and vibranium. But they can only do vibranium in the movies because, the X-Men franchise is separate. But I wonder now if Disney does end up rolling the X-Men movies into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if they'll redo Captain America's shield where it contains adamantium too.
I didn't actually follow up once that was announced of Disney buying Fox Searchlight, if it went through or not, because it was on the table.
I have no idea.
But there was a chance of Congress blocking them because Disney would own so much.
Right.
And not just in movies.
Didn't actually investigate into it. I know that Disney recently went through a restructuring because they were really revising the way like the theme parks work and all that, and they appointed new heads to a bunch of the divisions, but they redid their divisions. So the theme park division is actually a lot bigger now and in control of a lot more stuff from the looks of it, which makes sense because out of everything, the theme parks are what make them the most money.
Because it's so fucking expensive to go to one.
Well, yeah, but have you ever been to any of the Disneylands?
I've looked at prices recently to go, because Harry Potter World.
Oh, that's Universal Studios, though.
Oh, well, they got one, I guess it is. Same area. I was looking at Disneyland, and then I looked at Harry Potter as well.
Uh-huh.
Both in California and Florida.
Uh-huh.
And it's so expensive. But I did go to Disneyland in first grade, so that was a long time ago.
I went to Disneyland when I was 14. I'd really like to take my kids. I just haven't had the opportunity to yet. But I went when I was 14, and it was just packed. All day long. We got in with early entrance because we were staying at the
hotel there.
Yeah, like their official hotel. I think we got in an hour ahead of like when the park officially opened. So it's like this early bird special they do for the hotel patrons. And it was just like a sea of 50-year-old parents running towards Splash Mountain. While all of us teenagers are just kind of like, because we're all Gen Xers at that point. So we're like, we don't care. Just run to Splash Mountain for us.
So cool.
So cool. We're not going to run for that. You guys run. But it's like all these 50-year-olds in like these shorts with t-shirts tucked into them, like making a mad dash towards Splash Mountain.
Sounds like something that would happen at Disney.
I don't know what was wrong with my parents' fashion sense because, at 14, that means that my mom would have actually been far younger than what I am right now. She'd been 33, and I swore she tucked her shirt into her shorts, like, every time we went places like that.
It's just what happens. when you get a kid, and then
I
you turn
guess.
into a boring parent.
I don't know. My style is still. It's not that anyway. We're what?
Rebellious.
Yeah,
still.
apparently. But then again, my dad, he still has some style to him. So
I hope that because Disney kind of, I don't know, I don't really care for the way that they try to own everything and then you ruin everything by spreading it out so much.
right.
So I hope that the deal doesn't go through or didn't go through or that they don't ruin it depending on how it went.
Yeah.
'Cause, you know, there's fighting and there's killing in these Marvel things.
Mm-hmm.
Not a single drop of blood. Doesn't matter what
they're
happens.
not. It's kind of like the Comics Code Authority.
Someone gets their throat cut in the movie, and there's not
No
a single
blood.
drop of blood.
Yeah. So you know what the Comics Code Authority was, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things with the Comics Code is that there couldn't be any, like, red blood. They specified the color of it, I think, if I remember right. So back in the early 90s when Marvel was still adhering to the Comics Code, you'd either see somebody have no blood coming out of a wound, or when they did, it'd be like this putrid green color instead of red.
Everybody has alien blood.
Right? That's the way it looked. So I guess that was just the mutant blood, since most of the blood spilled at that time, you know, was happening in Cable or X-Force or something like that. But
Should have just went for like a blackout of it.
I think they did do that at times, but it kind of seemed like the majority of the colors were doing this kind of putrid green sort of.
I just hope if they got it, they don't ruin it.
The funny thing is, though, after the
adult.
Comics Code Authority was dropped, all of a sudden Marvel had these guidelines they imposed on themselves that were really weird. So they dropped the Comics Code Authority and they immediately released this line of books that has sex and nudity and all this stuff in it, right? And they put characters into it that actually made sense for that kind of line, like Luke Cage, right? Jessica Jones was actually created for that line. But while they're doing all this, they ban smoking in Marvel Comics. Wolverine can't smoke. Gambit can't smoke.
Lame.
Right? Like, none of these characters can smoke. And they can drink to their heart's content, and they can also show exotic drugs being used, but not smoking. So, in Jessica Jones, one of the earliest episodes, these drug dealers or drug cooks or whatever they were making some sort of synthetic drug off of superhumans, their blood or their skin or something like that, right? And they're showing them hit it like they're hitting a crack pipe, right?
Oh, yeah. I think you told me about this.
And yet they couldn't smoke a cigarette. And it's like they're smoking something that looks like crack, but they can't smoke a cigarette. How much sense does that make?
Your ward can be a junkie, but
right.
he can't smoke.
Right. Show him shooting up in the middle of the alleyway. All you want, but you better not have a cigarette dangling out of his mouth. So yeah, the rules that they imposed were just so strange at that time. And nowadays, I think they've pretty much done away with the whole Max line. Because that's what they called it, was Marvel Max. And I liked what they were going for with that, because what they're going for was like, DC had Vertigo that had a lot less restrictions than the main Marvel line did, right? And Marvel wanted something like Vertigo, because Vertigo's where Sandman came out, Hellblazer.
Yeah, it was a lot of cool stuff that came from
A
it.
whole lot of cool stuff. But the thing is that while some of the Vertigo characters were pre-existing, you know, like Sandman actually existed prior to, it just wasn't that version. It was a superhero called Sandman. And when Neil Gaiman was offered the chance to do something with that, you know, he did something completely different than just revising the superhero. But that superhero actually was worked into the Sandman series. Swamp Thing existed prior to Vertigo. And so Hellblazer made his first appearance in Swamp Thing. And then, if I remember right, the Hellblazer series was the first title to actually carry the Vertigo imprint. But for the most part, all the Vertigo titles were something that existed outside of the DC universe, right? Like, when Vertigo really took shape, it was a rarity to see Constantine or Swamp Thing interacting with Batman or Superman or any of those characters, right? But they also had, like, Why the Last Man that had nothing at all to do with the rest of the DC universe. And Scalped, you know, was something that came out under Vertigo. And a bunch of titles like that. And when Marvel did theirs, it was like, let's take our characters that already exist and put them in this adult world. With the exception of Jessica Jones, which they did retcon into her history that she used to be an Avenger. So
I didn't know that.
yeah, the Jessica Jones in the TV show is a bit different than the one in the comics. The one in the comics is a retired superhero.
Oh.
I don't remember if they did that in the TV show or not.
I didn't make it through her show, but I liked her in
Defenders?
Yeah.
I actually liked her a lot better in Defenders than I did as the standalone TV series. So I haven't watched the second season yet. I can't find an interest in it quite yet. But I like the character, and I like the villain that was in Jessica Jones. I liked her supporting cast. It's just the actress that I didn't much care for.
Why I want to go back to it is David Tennant.
Mm-hmm.
David Tennant's great.
Yeah, he played Kilgrave.
And he was the Doctor.
Yeah.
The 10th Doctor.
He was fantastic in that show. I loved him. In the episodes that he was in, it seemed like he made her step up her acting game a bit. So it was more enjoyable when he was in them. But when it was just her solo through the whole episode, it wasn't nearly as good.
It seems like she can be a bit flat, but
yeah, that's what I thought.
It's almost like she's trying to play the character that way.
Yeah, but then she was basically the exact same way in her character in Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, barely watched that.
Yeah, so she is a character in Breaking Bad that's a junkie. She's basically the same exact person.
Except she's a junkie.
Instead of an alcoholic, she's a heroin addict. But her acting is interchangeable.
Yeah.
She could easily be Jessica Jones in Breaking Bad.
No range, really.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it. So, or who knows, maybe she's just typecast at this point. It's hard to say.
Could be. It's an unfortunate thing to fall into.
Yeah,
The only one of those that I finished besides The Defenders was Luke Cage.
I have finished all of them. And I love Daredevil. I love The Defenders. I actually loved Iron Fist. I liked Iron Fist.
I want to get to Daredevil. I watched most of Iron Fist, but the only problem was, I'm like, once I got like 7 or 8 episodes in, I'm sitting there thinking, he spent most of this time just whining like a little bitch. He hasn't done anything. It's just 7 episodes of him crying about something and not doing anything.
Yeah, but Colleen Wing was cool.
Oh, she's a badass. I like her.
He did whine a lot, but I really like the guy who is the bad guy in that. Who's he? Is he Faramir in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
He's also in 300. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I really liked him, and I liked the guy who was his son. I actually liked both the actors who were their kids. And I liked whatever his name is that played Danny Rand. I liked him for the part just fine. But yeah, he was whiny.
Yeah, he's so whiny.
But they wrote the character whiny. So I don't know if that's really the fault of the actor.
He can kind of only act to what they gave him.
But yeah, it was kind of funny because they wrote this character that was supposed to be all about inner peace, and he's just like this completely pissed off little brat through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I really liked in Defenders when they had the two of them interacting with one another, Luke Cage and Iron Fist.
Yeah, their first little throwdown there.
Yeah, I liked that. And since those two characters have been partners for so long in the comics, it was nice seeing them together. If you're a fan of the old school comics that go back to like the 70s,
Haven't read them.
Then those two characters have a ton of history together, so...
Well, it seemed like the whole group is supposed to have a history together.
Yeah, Daredevil's like the lone wolf, but in the comics, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones actually get married at some point and have a baby. Well, I don't know if they get married, but I know they have a baby.
They have some good shows, I guess, coming out. Hopefully there's more to come. I really like Luke Cage.
Yeah.
I want to keep watching that one.
Yeah, I loved Luke Cage. I thought that was so awesome.
I wish they could have done something cool with some sort of the mutant shows. I never watched Legion, but that one looked good. That was the only one that
Legion is damn good.
That's the only one that looked good.
Okay, when I first saw the preview for Gifted, I thought it wasn't going to be good, right? But it is an excellent show. So Legion and Gifted, I highly recommend watching both of those.
I can't remember Gifted.
Legion kind of gives you a headache to watch, though, for the the whole entire first season. Because, he's supposed to be schizophrenic. And they actually play him being schizophrenic better than I've seen done in, any show. But watching it is almost agitating to your brain. Because he's constantly hearing these voices and he's constantly distracted by something. And, he never knows which reality he's in. And they did a really good job on that. but it was almost agitating to watch just because of how good it was, honestly. But Gifted's really good.
I don't remember what that one is.
So Gifted takes place sometime after the X-Men are missing. You never find out how they're missing. But this group is basically like, what do they call them? The Mutant Underground. And it's comprised of characters that are straight out of the comics. So like, well, most of them, there are a few that are brand new. But Polaris and Blink and Thunderbird and Sage, those are all main characters. The Marcus character, I think, is based off Sunspot. But as far as I know, he's a brand new character for the show. And then the Stepford Cuckoos and bunch of characters like that. I know you're looking at me
I don't
because you don't know who
that
any of these characters are. But but if you have the wealth of knowledge of X-Men comics that I have, you would know.
As long as there's no Jubilee.
Jubilee is not in it. You don't have to worry about that.
I don't need to watch some mutant shoot sparks out of her. I'm a sparkler. It's ridiculous.
Your hatred of Jubilee, man.
I don't know why. It's just so stupid.
Is it because we're earrings?
No, there's not. It's just like, what's the point of your power?
Well, do all mutant powers have to be necessary?
No, but I mean, you're writing shit. You should write something cool. How many other mutants don't have cool powers?
Okay, Jubilee is very much set in the time that she was made.
It's unfortunate.
And so, like in the 90s, the whole wearing a trench coat with like the glasses on top of your head and always chewing the bubble gum with the earrings that said her name. She's Valley Girl.
That's probably part of the annoying part.
She was basically like based off a trend that lasted like 2 weeks. And they just made a whole character off that lasted. It's not the first time Marvel did that with something because, Dazzler was the disco mutant that was made like 2 years after Disco was dead.
That sounds just as bad.
Dazzler can turn sound into light or light into sound, so her powers aren't even that different from Jubilee's.
Sound into light.
Yes.
Or light
into sound. Yes.
That sounds cooler than making some sparks, though.
Well, technically, Jubilee's powers are actually supposed to be plasma blasts.
Oh.
So
it just kind of looks like sparks to me.
Yeah, they come out looking like fireworks, but in theory, her power levels could get up to like Havoc proportions.
Oh. Well, that's a little bit cooler.
Yeah, it could be, but
I'd rather turn lights into sound than sound.
That was during a time period in the 90s when they were trying to create mutants that didn't just have some ultimate power too. So like Jubilee is low level power. Gambit was actually supposed to be really low level power when he was made.
Yeah, but he
was supposed to. Yeah, but Gambit was supposed to rely more on his stealth skill than anything else, And then Bishop, he carried a gun because he relied on people shooting him with their mutant powers in order to have power.
Can't do anything. I'm just waiting.
Right? It's like in battle, Cyclops has to shoot him with his eye blast, so he's got ability.
Shoot me.
Do it.
I just picture him like Tommy Lee Jones in the first Men in Black. Eat me. I had to get my gun back.
I love Bishop, though. He's a great character. So anyway, we've talked about Marvel stuff more than enough for one podcast.
What have you been up to? How did Frankenstein go?
I thought it went really well.
Did you buy me anything?
I did not. I looked everywhere and could not find a single Lucifer comic.
You dick.
So that was one of the main complaints that I heard from people who were actually doing tabling there, was that they couldn't find anything. But see, here's the thing. They're not talking about anything to read. They're talking about their aggravation over the fact that they can't find anything they can flip from other dealers. And it's kind of like, oh, well, I'm sorry you didn't find anything worth $80 that you spent $10 on.
That's not really a huge problem.
No. So, I found a small amount of stuff that I wanted for my own collection. I would have actually bought more if I had had more money, but I only had so much to work with. So I bought a trade paperback, a stack of elementals, and some comic review magazines. And then there's a series that I found in my long boxes called Arak that I really wanted to read the whole thing, and I already had like half of it in my boxes. So I found a couple of those in the quarter bins, picked them up. everything I picked up was just for the purposes of reading. I didn't pick up anything to flip, and I am perfectly fine with that. I don't think you need to find something to flip all the time,
No.
And if somebody got to something that was worth like $100 that they paid $1 for before I walked up to the bin, good for them.
That's just how it goes.
Yeah, and I mean, like, hey, good for them. Maybe they really needed that money. Good for them.
What trade did you get?
I got a Savage Sword of Conan trade.
Mm.
Yeah, I love Conan.
I saw this old Conan comic in the thrift store today.
Uh-huh.
It was all taped together. It looked pretty old.
It was taped together?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was beat to shit.
Uh-huh.
They had just like a shitty stack of comics that was tortured.
And it wasn't like the first issue of Conan the Barbarian or anything.
It was like Conan something or other. I can't remember what it said.
So there's Conan the Barbarian, Savage Sword of Conan, and King Conan. I think were the 3 titles Marvel did back in the day.
I want to say it wasn't Conan the Barbarian.
Okay. Then it was a regular comic size or was it magazine size?
It was comic size.
Then it was probably King Conan.
Oh.
And none of the King Conans are worth anything. You can find all of them for like 50 cents a piece at Comic Cons.
So. Well, that one should be like a freebie.
If it's taped together, yeah.
It's pretty bad.
But in any case, I found some stuff to read, had a good time. My kids came by for a little while. They had a good time. Elias found some stuff to read. He kept coming back with stacks of stuff. And,
I bet.
There was a pretty big audience there, but everybody... See, like, all the other vendors kept telling me how horrible their days were going, right? I made basically the exact same amount of money that I always do at Frankenstein. I think after I check my records to verify, I'll find out for sure, but I think I might have actually been up by like 10%.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and so, at the end of the day, I moved about a short box worth of comics. I sold quite a few sets, and I bought some cool stuff to read. That's a success in my eyes. Yeah. I had fun.
Made money, got rid of stuff.
Yeah. So, I don't know what was up with a lot of the other vendors, if they truly were down that much, or if they were just so depressed that they weren't finding stuff to flip.
That's probably a big part of it.
That probably is.
They need something to occupy themselves.
Right. But it was busy the whole time, and I thought it was a good show. I'm looking forward to June.
It's always a fairly busy show.
Oh yeah, yeah, it is. There's always stuff if you look around, but it's a difference in what you're looking for. If you're just going somewhere looking for stuff to flip, don't count on it being there.
Yeah, these people.
It's not necessarily going to be.
There's a good chance these people have already tracked through everything that they have. And
right, or
up.
somebody's going to come through earlier than you are and wipe it all out or whatever. I mean, like. So if that's your sole purpose in being there, you're going to be disappointed once in a while.
Yeah.
But if you're a comic fan, I'm assuming there's something you're looking for your own private reading enjoyment. Or collecting enjoyment if you're more of a collector. And so if you look around, you're probably going to find something, right? And I sold a copy of Who Will Save the World, which
nice.
That at any of the dealer-oriented shows, I'm always ecstatic to sell anything Darkslinger. So I was very happy to have moved a copy of Who Will Save the World.
That one's always a great one to get off the table.
Right. So I was very happy with that. And so between the Hillsborough show and the Frankenstein show, I am now profitable for conventions for the year, which is very good because Comic-Con was a pretty steep negative. So
yeah, but that Hillsborough show.
The Hillsborough show really helped bounce up. Yeah.
That one. That was so good.
Yeah.
Who the hell would have expected that?
Right? Yeah, I wouldn't have.
No, that's a good place. Good place to go.
So I'm definitely going to be looking into a whole lot more library conventions in the future.
Especially if it's at a nice library like that.
Yeah. So I did that. I have been working in my personal life. One of the things I've been working the most on is getting all my business taxes finalized. Need to meet up with the accountant this week, and so I need to make sure I have every single document and every single penny accounted for before I meet with my accountant.
Such a pain.
It is. It's a huge pain, but, it's not as bad as it used to be because at least now PayPal actually has accounting tools integrated into the system.
Man, for mine, I spent like a half hour, 45 minutes clicking through stuff.
Yeah, because you just get a W-2 and that's all you got to do.
Yeah, and
when you own your own business, it's a lot different.
I even left off a thing for the kicker, and because I was like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. In the end, it's them just not giving me back money, so it's not like they're going to be disappointed. In the end, they filled it out for me automatically, and so I still got my kicker.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I got my thing from the Department of Revenue or whatever it is, and I was like, oh, what the fuck? Did they want me to pay them money even though it said I don't have to pay them money? Did they get it wrong?
Right.
And then no, it's the thing about here's more money.
So yeah, I have the eBay business I got to do all the taxes on, and then I also have all the Darkslinger stuff to do taxes on. So it's like I do all the eBay stuff, and then I do, which I have 2 eBay accounts, so it's double the amount of counting on all that. And then I got to do all the Darkslinger stuff, which, I got to figure out what I paid to artists last year, what I paid out in printing costs, what I sold through the Darkslinger website, money that I brought in through conventions, and then I got to figure out all my Craigslist sales and OfferUp sales and list Diaz sales and or let go sales. List you sell for credits, but same thing.
Man, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a solid amount, and usually I try to start on it by at least June of the previous year, so that I can have it as close to done as possible when it's tax time. But this last year I just didn't get a chance. And then there's Kickstarter on top of that. So, in Kickstarter news, you might have seen you're one of my Kickstarter backers, but I sent the PDF out this week.
I got a thing about the, requesting...
The survey?
Yeah.
Okay, there was a survey, and then I posted an update that had the link to the Dropbox account, and it's a backer-only update. But it's a link to the Dropbox where you can find the PDF for Ghost Assassin #1.
Oh, I guess I didn't notice that. I noticed the survey, and then please give me your email thing here.
Getting the digital reward done is awesome because with that simple update, it makes it so that 20 of the backers have their incentive delivered to them. Because there were about 20 that were digital only.
Nice, then it's all done for that.
Yeah. So now it's on to the next steps.
Yeah, because you have all your funds and you're rolling on that, right?
Yep, got all the funds and I'm rolling, yeah. So everything is ordered with the exception of a few things. I'm still waiting on a few people to get me information on what metal prints they want and t-shirt information.
You have all your buyers picked, your suppliers picked out for those?
Yeah. I had my suppliers picked out before the Kickstarter ended. So.
All right. Smart.
Yeah, and in Kickstarter news, let's go ahead and give a quick plug. If you like your horror mixed with sci-fi and comedy that I just don't understand, head over to Kickstarter and search up Black Suited Death #3 by my good friend and fellow podcast co-host Ben Krager. He says that's not how you say his last name, but I've been friends with him for like 9 years and I ain't changing now.
So you tell him how to say his last name.
That's right. So anyway, in all reality, Black Suited Death #3 is on Kickstarter right now.
Check it out.
Ben is, I think, last time I checked, 22% funded. He's got a number of backers. He's got like 66 or 67 backers. So he's got a lot of backers. He's off to a really good start. So
moving along.
Yeah, head over to that. You can also, on Twitter, if you search out the hashtag FundBDS3. No, BSD.
BDS.
FundBSD3 will take you to a number of posts that Ben has done. And you can follow that as a link as well. And when you go over there and back, make sure to send Ben a message that says, fuck you.
He'll know where it's from. But only do it if you backed.
Only if you backed. In addition to that, I have been working on getting all of the letters finalized for Bovine Muerte issue #4 because I now have all of the pages, including the cover. Gabriel's delivered everything, and it's all excellent. I love all of it.
I bet. It always looks good.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just delivered the cover yesterday, and that was the last thing needed for issue number 4. So I think there are potential of 18 updates between now and the end of issue number 4. So that gives us quite a bit of time to get the first couple of pages done for issue number 5. So I need to tighten up the script for issue number 5, go over it to make sure there are no errors, get off to Gabriel, and get rolling on issue 5. So
sounds like it's about ready to go.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I have everything written out longhand. I go through my tightening and cleaning stage when I type something out. But I was pretty happy with the way issue number 5 flowed out when I was writing it longhand. So I don't honestly know that it's going to need hardly any revision. It might basically just be a type up. We'll see.
Nice.
Yeah.
Quick and easy.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's pretty exciting to have the full issue be completed. I wish that I could show people more of it, honestly.
I bet that's a big thing. Once you're finished with one, you just want to like kick it out there to everybody immediately. Hey, check out this shit that I did.
There is that to a degree. Like, I have all of these excellent designs Patrick's been doing of the Darkslinger characters as these little characters, right? Like kid characters. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting on 6 of them, I think, that haven't been released to the general public yet. And I really just want to just release them all and just show them, right? But at the same time, I need things to post slowly, day by day by day on Instagram so that I can remind people we exist.
Yeah.
And have something to post and not run out of things to post, right? And so I know it's better to kind of space this out, like do it one at a time, but...
Yeah, you get excited when you make something.
Right.
You just want to show and tell everybody.
Alan Bennett is notoriously bad for that. He finishes a page and he takes a photo of it and posts it online, right? So if you look at his Facebook page, you look at his Tales from the Scratchpad blog, or his Instagram, one of those 3, right? You can generally see the whole entire story on those if you just kind of mix and match where the images were.
Line it up.
Right.
Hey, I get the same way when I make something, but it's not like this.
What type of stuff do you mean?
I just made a couple of cutting boards, and I was excited to show those off.
You're making cutting boards?
I made a couple because I was on like a whim one day. So I had to go to Home Depot and pick up some stuff, and then I was like, I want to make something, but I'm not too good. I want to make something out of wood, but I don't have a lot of experience in it.
Right.
I was like, cutting board? That seems pretty easy.
I didn't know you made cutting boards.
I just made them. I just finished it earlier in the week.
You gonna give one of them to me as a present?
You're not the first person to ask me that. Usually the response is, I'll be waiting for mine. And, I glued these 7 pieces together. I picked out the woods to use and glued them, planed it, cut it, sand the hell out of it. And got this oil and beeswax to treat it. Because, you don't really need to treat it, but I did. And then when you put the oil on it, it gets it soaks in, gives it a dark color.
Right, so it makes it look really nice.
I went maple, I think, cherry, and walnut.
Who did you give them to? Well, I'm assuming you kept one, right?
One of them is mine. And Nicole wants the other one, so I feel like I should give it to her.
I feel like if
I'll give it to her.
She needs to listen to every episode of the podcast.
Is that what I should tell her?
Yeah, that's what you should tell her.
Yeah, I was going to give it to her.
And then give her a quiz on things that we've said that you forget that we've said, so you'll have to have me make up the quiz.
I was going to give it to her anyway, but I mean, if you want to tell her that's the only way that she gets it.
I do want to tell her.
Or else you get it.
Yeah.
She might just be like, well, I'll give it to him.
She might be. Because, Jesus, I think this is our 22nd or 23rd episode now.
Oh, wow.
So you take into account that at least 2 of them were only a half hour, but that a few of them ran a little bit long. Yeah, you're looking at least 21 hours worth that she'd have to listen to.
But I wasn't on all of them.
No, you're not on all of them. So if it's specific to those that you're on, then yeah.
So you drop a few hours.
Yeah. So 18, 19, something like that. Yeah.
Not too bad.
You're on the vast majority of them. But yeah, there's been a few that only Elias had been on. So
yeah.
And then there's the one that Alex was on. where he kept saying, "Don't get me wrong."
I was excited to use my cutting board, and she brought her some stuff, and we were making soup. It was my first time using it, and it was chopping all well and good, and then I got a little bit of my finger in it, got a little too excited chopping stuff. It was just like a little scrape, though, so there wasn't much blood.
So you weren't bleeding all over your brand new cutting board?
Yeah, and the blood, it just stayed on the finger.
Okay, that's good.
Adds flavor into the food anyways, right?
That is true. That's true.
Nice irony flavor. But yeah, I was the same way. I'm like, oh, get this shit out there. I want to show you guys. Check this out. Anyone that like came over, hey, you see this cutting board right here? Yeah, I made that. No big deal.
So yeah, with the exception of all that stuff, the only thing I've really been doing is taking a hard look at what conventions I really want to try and get into in 2018. Those that there's still time to get into anyway.
What are you thinking?
Well, I decided, I would have had to apply for it like a month ago, but I decided not to do the one at the coast this next weekend. Not because I don't think it's going to be a good show, because from everything I heard from people that did it last year, it was an excellent show. But I'm out of stock on Chronicles number 3.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm extremely low stock on Chronicles number 2. So I kind of feel before I go do something as specifically Darkslinger again, I need to have my stock build back up, right?
Yeah, you need to re-up.
But I would really like to do the Seaside show. It's a first-year show, but as far as I know, Seaside has never had a con before. These are areas that never have anything like that going on. And you got to think for the people who live in these areas all year long, having something that's not just a bookstore or
yeah,
a gift shop or a cheese factory,
And all the tourists that can go to it.
Exactly.
When is it?
It, I believe, is in June or July.
That's a perfect time.
It is. And the funny thing is, I liked the page, right? Because whenever I see these new cons pop up, I always like it so I can go back to it later and check it out on Facebook, right? I won their first giveaway for tickets, and I didn't even know I'd entered it. So they announced me as a winner of it before liking the page. I was like, oh, that's cool. But I'm thinking about doing the show, so I wonder if they'll let me gift them to someone.
I don't see why you couldn't. They just take it.
Right, exactly. So anyway, I'm really, really hoping to do that.
1 day show?
2 day. But I don't mind getting a hotel at the beach.
No, they're not. They're cheap.
Even if it ends up being a loss monetarily for the sales there, it's a weekend getaway at the beach, and
yeah.
Just being able to just walk around on the beach for a night and just kind of detox from everything we live around, I'm cool with that.
Everybody likes the beach.
Right, exactly. So
and in the summertime, it's nice.
Wenatchee has 2 events, and I did so well at Wenatchee last year that even though it's a hell of a drive.
Yeah, did you say that's like 6 hours?
I think it took us 6.5 to 7. We stopped a few times here and there for this and that. If we had just driven straight through, it would have been a lot shorter, but you're going to be in a car for that long. You're going to stop for a little bit,
Yeah.
I would really, really like to do one of the Wenatchee shows again. There is a new kind of old horror show happening in Portland, but I think I'm going to skip that one because
Not feeling it?
I'm not feeling it for a good reason. So I'll come back to that one. So there's the normal Diller shows that don't conflict with anything I would do as Darkslinger that, I'll kind of pepper out. So there's a Frankenstein. Sasquatch is going to happen again in May. I'm going to be at these little shows.
Sasquatch is Eugene?
Sasquatch is Eugene. And at the last Sasquatch, not only did I sell a ton out of the long boxes and the trade paperback bins, but I actually sold a lot of Darkslinger product at that last one, too.
Nice.
So, and I like Sasquatch a lot. I really like Donna, who runs it. She's an awesome lady. There's always good stuff to find. There's a guy who sits up there who just has 8 boxes that are all quarter bins. So, I can spend a good 2 hours just going through his quarter bins and just seeing what's what,
Just spending $10 and
right.
coming back with
it. Yeah. I pulled out this huge, huge stack the first time we were there. And it was basically the equivalent of a short box worth, right? And I come walking back to the table, and Elias is like, oh my God, how much did all that cost you? I'm like, $25.
Yep. His reaction is different than mine. Mine would have been like, what the fuck are you doing with all that shit?
Yeah, but part of the thing was I was finding a bunch of kids' comics in there for a quarter a piece, so they were going straight to my kids.
I don't have to think about cost when you're out buying stuff.
Right.
I think about how much more is this going to be for us to take.
Yeah, you didn't want to lug it to the car.
Yeah.
He never has a problem with that like you do. But back to the show. So, this show was affiliated with a magazine I really, really liked. It's a magazine that you saw when we were at Crypticon, as a matter of fact. And I really like the people who are involved in the magazine, right? But they had a show towards the end of the magazine, and I wasn't able to make it to the show despite the fact that I wanted to be at it. From what my friends who ended up going to it said, they said it felt like the show was trying to imitate Crypticon too much, but it was basically just kind of a mini version of it. And it's kind of like, why spend, like $200 on a booth to go to a mini version of Crypticon when Crypticon's going to cost me like barely over that, right?
Yeah.
And so the thing is I saw that they had brought back this convention with a new name. And the new name's kind of necessary because it's been like 5 or 6 years since this convention last happened. That's not enough to turn me off, right? I mean, like, stuff happens, and I know there were some sort of legal issues happening behind the scenes with the magazine, which I do know some details of, but, I'm not going to say on the podcast.
It doesn't really matter.
That'd be pretty rude. But they are bringing it back, and I saw the post about it, and I was like, oh, awesome, Portland's going to get a horror show again, But it went into great depth about being a charity show. Now, I have no issues with it being a charity show.
Yeah, so charity's great.
I think it's going to be half profit, half charity, right?
My work is a charity.
Right, and I've got no problem with charity. I've done a lot of charity signings at this point and stuff like that.
Is charity the same as a non-profit? Probably not. We rely on charity from other people.
I'm not sure. I always view charity as raising money for a cause.
We're raising it to keep open a place to the public.
Yeah. I don't think it's quite the same thing, but it's similar.
Well, then we're not a charity. We're just a nonprofit.
We're a nonprofit, right. So the charity that she chose, I think, is an excellent one to choose. She's doing it as an event for women who have been abused, and I think children who have been abused as well, in domestic relationships. Great charity to pick.
Yeah, good stuff.
The problem came in with the fact that it stated that all of the vendors would be curated, and I got the impression that the curation would be based off how well they would fit into this particular charity setting, right? I'm like, okay, well, I don't really even apply for curated shows. So
to me, that just means that someone's picking out the people who's going to be at the show.
That is exactly what it is.
And telling you where you're going to be.
Yeah.
Like trying to form a sort of aesthetic, like a gallery.
Most conventions are first come, first served.
Yeah.
But curated shows is like they want to know exactly what you're going to be bringing. And curated shows can turn out to be really good. But they always have lengthy submission processes. And I don't want to go through all that to get a table at a con. But it was that plus for all the guests, they only want to get guests who have lived through this experience but are still celebrities. And I thought that was kind of really bizarre.
I don't get it. What?
So they only want female celebrities who have been abused in domestic partnerships or relationships.
As guests,
as their celebrity guests.
Celebrity guests, not like guests coming into the show. I'm like, how do you curate that?
No, not people who. Not that would be called attendees.
Yeah, you're right.
No, so the vendors will be curated, right? The vendors will be curated. And the celebrities will be curated to people who have been abused in relationships. And honestly, I think the whole idea that you're curating the celebrities in that way is fucked up.
You're kind of touting it a bit?
Well, okay, so it's like this. If there was a famous actress who was in horror movies who wants to be at this show because it's her own private thing she's been through, I think that should be enough that she wants to be at the show and help out with this charity. I don't think that it should be a thing like, look at these people being here because they've been abused in relationships.
It's like they're using it.
Right. And it's also kind of like, how comfortable will that be for the celebrities who have people just coming up to them nonstop asking them questions about this thing that they're there for, you know? And it's like, I'm sure that they're going to want to answer a few, you know, questions about why their character slipped on a banana peel in this horror movie or something. And not all this about, hey, why did your dad molest you when you were a kid? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of those elements that I'm kind of like, it's, you know.
If it works out great.
I think if it works out great, but the way it was presented seemed too intrusive into people's lives to me.
Yeah, no need to try to put it on display for a couple hits.
Exactly. And so I personally think, hey, if these celebrities, if these vendors want to be at the show and they know that it's a charity event for this and they're cool with helping to raise money for it, why can't that be enough? Yeah. You know, when I did the March of Dime signing for the abused babies, never at any point in time did anybody ask any of us creators that were there if we were abused as children.
It kind of seems like you wouldn't. Why would you want to? You put it on out there in the front that you're doing it for charity. You don't bring up this shit to someone's face.
And if you're doing it for the reasons that it's something that you lived through, hopefully it provides you with some sort of catharsis. And that's good on your personal level. And it's something that you can choose to tell people or not, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it should be a thing like this person stated this in a 1989 interview and I'm going after them to be at my show because of that. You know what I'm saying? So I found it very bizarre. And I wish the show the absolute best of luck. But it's too bizarre for me to go after people for that reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To off track it just for a second.
Okay.
Speaking of lady actresses, I may have already brought it up or told you. I don't know which, but the lady in the last house on the left, the old one,
mm-hmm.
She teaches classes at my work. She has for years.
Really?
Longer than I've worked, and I had no idea. And then like people had said before, oh yeah, she was in an old horror movie, but no one could say what movie until finally we looked it up because I guess it hadn't occurred to them. And so I looked her up. She's the main teenage girl in the 1972 Last House on the Left.
Wow. You gonna get her autograph?
No, I mean I don't care that much.
Okay.
But I just thought, wow, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So here's an idea though. If we ever do our own horror show, you already have somebody we can get as a guest.
Yeah, there's this lady. She already comes in here for classes. All the information is already right there.
So we're pretty close to the hour mark. There's probably not much else to talk about today, right?
Well, you want to kind of mention when your shows are? Like what?
I would if I had any that are set in stone.
No, like a general time frame, because I want to know.
Well, I need to buy the tables at all of them first, and then we're going to be doing a convention calendar. I didn't get a chance to do that this week because I've been working my ass off on both the taxes and the Kickstarter.
Well, then cut all this shit out.
Okay, next week, well, let's keep this in so that I can stay this. Next week, I will have at least 2 convention announcements for sure.
Cool.
So, tune in next week to hear that, to hear how everything's going with the Kickstarter fulfillment. Although now that it's ordered up, I don't count on having any of it next week. But who knows? Maybe we'll get surprised and there'll be some stuff there. We'll do a check-in on how Ben's Kickstarter is going. Be talking a bit more about conventions, El Bovine Muerte, all that good stuff. And hopefully I'll be ramping up for the next Kickstarter, which will be Chronicles Von Helsing. Ooh. And I'm hoping to make an announcement about what that's going to be exactly.
Is this the big surprise one?
No, it's not like a gigantic surprise. It's just, which one it's going to be exactly is still kind of up in the air. So,
well, it seems like there's one that's likely, one that you might not know yet.
There are 2 that are likely. So,
all right, well, let's find out.
Yep, tune in next week to find out. Maybe. Or maybe the week after. Who knows?
I guess I'll have to tune in too.
Why, are you not going to be on next week?
Oh, no, it's not that. I'll just...
You're going to finally listen to the show for the first time
I'm
ever?
just not going to know until then. I don't always know at the same time. I sometimes find out the same time that these people do.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I like to get your honest reaction. So
yeah.
So, if you go to Facebook, you can find us on Darkslinger Comics. Ghost Assassin, Chronicles Von Helsing, and El Bovine Muerte. On Twitter under Darkslinger Comics and Adam Watson. On Tumblr, Darkslinger Comics and El Bovine Muerte. Instagram, Darkslinger Comics. Google Plus. If you type in Darkslinger Comics, I'm not sure what the actual ad is for Google Plus. And LinkedIn under Adam Watson. Till next week, I'm Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
Thank you for listening.